Imagine two countries go to war. One has 1,791 fighter jets. The other has 188. One spends over $800 billion a year on its military. The other spends only a fraction of that. One has 11 aircraft carriers patrolling the globe. The other? 0. Every analyst on the planet would say, this fight is already over. But when the shooting started, those same analysts looked at their screens and said something nobody expected. The smaller country is controlling the entire situation.
How? Because of a stretch of water just 21 miles wide. The Strait of Hormuz. Today, we're going to explore how this single bottleneck has shattered empires, started wars, ended democracies, and right now holds the global economy hostage. Let's get into it. The story starts about 35 million years ago, long before humans, long before oil, long before anyone cared about shipping lanes. The Arabian tectonic plate drifted north, the Eurasian plate pushed south. Eventually, they collided. The impact crumpled the Earth's crust and pushed up the Zagros Mountains of modern-day Iran.
Seawater flooded the gap between them. The Persian Gulf was born, and at its narrow exit point, the Strait of Hormuz emerged. But where did the name come from? Before Islam spread through Persia, the dominant religion was Zoroastrianism, one of the oldest monotheistic faiths in history. Its supreme deity was Ahura Mazda, the god of order, justice, and truth. In Old Persian, his name was rendered as Hormazd. The ancient Persians named this strait after him because to them it wasn't merely a trade route. It was sacred, a place where order itself flowed through. Over centuries, Hormazd became Hormuz, a god's name carved into geography. So why does this narrow channel matter so much? Today, roughly 20% of the world's oil and natural gas passes through this strait every single day. Liquefied natural gas, petrochemicals, aluminum, fertilizer, the raw materials that keep factories running from Germany to Japan to Texas. But this isn't a modern phenomenon. It's always been this way. Back in the 11th century, an Arab merchant named Muhammad Duramku founded the Kingdom of Hormuz. He wasn't a conqueror. He wasn't a military genius. He was a businessman who understood one simple truth. Control this choke point, and you control everyone who needs to pass through it. By the year 1500, Hormuz had become one of the most cosmopolitan trading hubs on Earth. Merchants arrived from Egypt, China, Bengal, Java, and East Africa. When Emperor Yongle wanted to demonstrate China's power to the world, he sent Admiral Zheng He in his massive fleet. One of the most important stops, Hormuz. Marco Polo passed through. Countless traders passed through. Eventually, every empire reached the same conclusion. Whoever holds Hormuz holds global trade. The year was 1507. Portuguese Admiral Alfonso de Albuquerque arrived with only 7 ships and 500 soldiers and seized Hormuz. Overnight, Portugal controlled one of the most important trade arteries in the world. Every spice, every silk, every luxury good heading toward Europe paid their toll. Britain couldn't tolerate that forever. By 1622, with Persian support, the Portuguese were pushed out. Control shifted to the English East India Company. Then came 1908. Everything changed. Oil was discovered in Iran. The modern world had found its fuel. A British company, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, secured access to Iranian oil. Britain grew rich. Iran received very little in return. For decades, many Iranians watched their wealth leave through Hormuz, while ordinary people remained poor.
Then came Mohammad Mossadegh. In 1951, he made a bold declaration. Iran's oil belongs to Iran. The industry would be nationalized. Britain responded with pressure, economic pressure, political pressure, and eventually covert pressure. Mossadegh challenged Britain in court and won. Back home, he became a national hero. But the victory didn't last. In 1953, a coup backed by the CIA and MI6 overthrew Mossadegh. The Shah returned to power. Iranian oil returned to foreign influence. And once again, Hormuz sat at the center of the struggle.
Then came 1979, the Iranian Revolution. The Shah fled. Ayatollah Khomeini took power. 52 American diplomats were held hostage for 444 days. Relations between Iran and the United States collapsed. 1 year later, Iraq invaded Iran. The Iran-Iraq War had begun. 8 years of fighting, more than 1 million dead, the bloodiest conventional conflict since World War II. And right in the middle of it all, Hormuz. Oil tankers became targets, shipping lanes became battlefields. The world watched nervously. In 1987, American warships began escorting Kuwaiti tankers through the strait. Then, disaster struck. An Iraqi missile hit the USS Stark. 37 American sailors were killed. The conflict escalated. Iranian vessels were attacked, and in one of the war's darkest moments, Iran Air Flight 655 was mistakenly shot down. All 290 civilians aboard were killed. Eventually, a ceasefire ended the war, but Hormuz remained exactly where it had always been, at the center of regional power. The war ended. But the crisis never truly disappeared. Iran continued pursuing nuclear capabilities. Sanctions increased. Pressure mounted. And Tehran repeatedly reminded the world of its strongest card, the Strait of Hormuz. In 2008, Iran threatened to close the strait. Washington called it an act of war. In 2012, the threat returned. This time, American, British, and French naval forces moved into the region. The strait remained open, but tensions never disappeared. Tankers were seized. Military encounters multiplied. Oil markets reacted to every headline. Because everyone understood the same reality. You don't need to conquer the world if you can control the doorway the world depends on. But the crisis never truly disappeared. Iran continued pursuing nuclear capabilities. Sanctions increased, pressure mounted, and Tehran repeatedly reminded the world of its strongest card, the Strait of Hormuz. In 2008, Iran threatened to close the strait. Washington called it an act of war.
In 2012, the threat returned. This time, American, British, and French naval forces moved into the region. The strait remained open, but tensions never disappeared. Tankers were seized. Military encounters multiplied. Oil markets reacted to every headline. Because everyone understood the same reality. You don't need to conquer the world. If you can control the doorway the world depends on.